The Homestretch update is the final update for Grounded before the full release on September 27th. While there was no new content added, there were several new items added and a major change to one of the game's systems. In this video, I'll tell you everything you need to know about the Homestretch update. Before we begin, make sure you're following me on Twitch if you want to catch my live streams. Link is down in the description. Let's get started. Let's start off by talking about the new feature that was added. This is a huge feature. It's one that's been asked for quite a long time, and that's a way to be able to play with your friends when the host of the world that you play on is not online. And the feature we got is called Shared Worlds. You can see this up in the top right corner. So basically, if you have a world that you've shared, which as you can see I have down here, I have a couple. This one's going to tell you who the owner is. In this case, this is one that I created and I shared it. Here's one that had original Ryan started and he shared with me because we tested out being able to join each other's worlds. So that's how you'll know if it's a shared world. I have a whole video on it, so we're not going to go too deep into it. If you want to watch that, I'll leave a link for that down in the description below. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at all the new things that were added in the game, as well as the major change to an existing system. So what I want to do next is go through all of the new items that were added in the Homestretch update. So we're over here on the crafting tab. We're on the first tab here. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down and look at some things. So first up is going to be spoiled meat slurry. Now, spoiled meat slurry is unlocked by analyzing spoiled meat. So basically, if you get raw meat and just leave it lay around, or if you maybe just wander around, you can pick it up and find spoiled meat if it's been laying around too long. Take that over to the analyzer table at the field stations, and you can analyze it. It'll unlock the recipe. What this is used for is to tame gnats. So in this update, they did add gnats. So now you can have aphids as pets, you can have weevils as pets, and you can also have gnats as pets. There were major changes to the pet system, which you can really quickly cover. I'm not big into pets. I really haven't used them that much. But basically what they've done is the pets will, even if they become unhappy, they will no longer just leave or just abandon you, basically. So if you have a pet and you forget to feed it or you forget to pet it and you're away for a long time, when you go back, it'll still be there. You basically just have to give it some food, pet it a couple times, and it'll go back to being your pet. The pets also have, I'm not sure if this was this update or a previous update, because like I said, I haven't used pets in a long time. They each have 10 inventory slots, so you can actually put stuff in their inventory. Now, the only concern there is if for some reason they die or you die, sometimes there's issues with it desyncing and stuff like that, and also losing the pets if you die. So got to be careful with that. And then also the pets have, I believe they have higher health, and also if you give them the armor, they have higher health. And I think it's harder to make them unhappy. So basically, huge overall for pets if you enjoy that kind of system. I'm sure there's going to be more tweaks between now and 1.0, so hopefully they end up making it just even a little bit better. But there you go. You need spoiled meat slurry to get yourself a gnat. And if you want some advice on where to get gnats, the place where you're going to find the most gnats, it's going to be the safest place to get them, is going to be over on the aphid island, which is where the rash doll is, over in the eastern flooded lands. There's a bunch of aphids over there, there's a bunch of weevils, and there's a bunch of gnats. You can get all three of the pets over there. Super easy. Although the only concern is going to be if you drop this stuff down, you might have a bunch of gnats coming up, so you might have to be careful and kind of knock some of the ones off that you don't want, and just let the one eat it. So next up is going to be, we're going to be looking at here, is going to be the nuggets. So the other big change and the system that was changed is armor and weapon upgrades have been completely changed. So there was a lot of feedback about the previous system, how it kind of went to being super grindy, especially for the armor. So what they did was they replaced quartzite with the tough nuggets, and they replaced the leather plates that you would craft with the style nuggets. So right here, we're going to have the rad tough nugget. This is the tier 3. This is currently the tier 3s, the rad tough nugget and the rad style nugget. You can only get those by breaking I believe it's called the rad tough stones or stone rads of toughness or something like that. Those are around the map. There's only a couple of them right now. I think you can get a total of, 27 of each one of these as I'm recording this. More will probably be added in the future. You can see here, there's also a crafting recipe. So the rad tough nugget is sap and black ox horns right now, and the rad style nugget is sap and dust mite fuzz. I'm in a creative world here. You cannot currently craft these. You will be able to craft them in 1.0. Next up is going to be the cool tough nugget and the cool style nugget. These are the tier 2s. These are going to let you upgrade. They're going to be used to upgrade things to level 6 and 7, which you will obviously combine with the globs down here to make, you'll use them to make the globs, right? So you'll see like a salt glob takes 3 salt shards and 1 cool nugget. So each of the tier 2, the level 6 and 7s are going to take these. And these are also found, you can break, there's a couple of stones for these around the map you can break. You can also find them like loosely around there. And also if you break the tier 3 stones, they kind of look like quartzite. They will actually give you, I believe, 3 of each, the 3 tier 3s, 3 tier 2s, and 3 tier 1s. And then there's also a couple of the tier 2 stones right here. There's a decent amount of these, but you can also unlock the crafting recipes for these. You can see the cool tough nugget costs sap and spider fang right now, and the cool style nugget costs sap and bee fuzz. These are unlocked after you complete the woodpile chip, which is the termite hill. So once you get the termite hill chip and turn that in, you actually be able to craft these. And as you can see, they're relatively cheap, although if you're afraid of fighting wolf spiders, these might be a little bit tough to make. but you can actually find a decent amount of these right now as well. And then last but not least, here is going to be the Tough Nugget and the Style Nugget. These are the tier 1s. These can also be found around the map. And basically what these done is the quartzite has been removed. So all the quartzite from the game is going to be gone, and any quartzite you had is going to disappear from your inventory. If you've already created Mighty Globs or Mighty Jewels, those will be saved. But going forward, you're going to have to use the Tough Nuggets and the Style Nuggets. And these are, again, you can find them loosely laying around. You can also break the larger rocks that look like quartzite to get these. And you can see you can craft these. Sap and Larva Spike for the Tough Nugget, Sap and Mite Fuzz for the Style Nugget. These are unlocked after completing the Black Anthill chip. So once you complete the Black Anthill lab and turn that chip in, you'll be able to purchase the ability to make these from Burgle. Moving on over here, there is a couple of new food items that were added to the game. So first up is going to be Tabpoloka Pudding. This is a play off of tapioca pudding. You're going to see here it requires tadpole jerky, lily pad wax, and mint shards. I've not actually made this. This is basically a tier 3 meal that's going to give you the well-fed buff, obviously. It's a meal. It's going to give you plus veteran diver and plus swim speed. This will be useful for the... basically, this will be useful for if you're going inside of the koi pond and perhaps the upper koi pond, which will probably be... I'm sure we're going to have to go in there in the 1.0 update, and maybe there's going to be more underwater areas, so this might become more useful later on. There's one other meal that was added down here. This is going to be called Spaghetti, which is a play off of spaghetti. And basically this costs, you have to craft it, you have to make water flea roast, acorn bits, and use lily pad wax. This is going to give you junior diver. So this is kind of like it's basically the tier 1 version of what we just saw. Junior diver, I believe, lets you hold your breath longer. So it'll give you a little bit of boost to that. This is pretty cheap to make. You can probably make this before even going down into the koi pond lab for the first time. And then that's all. I think that's all that's on here. Next up over here is going to be one new item and one thing that was changed. First up is going to be the cookery. So one of the things I gave feedback on a while ago, and others have also done this, was basically saying that because the meals were cooked in the oven, and the oven was not unlocked until you got to the upper yard, which for the average player is going to be super late in the game, it kind of made a lot of the early game meals that you could unlock, the cookbooks you could unlock from the chips, kind of irrelevant. So rather than making the oven cheaper, you're going to see the oven is still right here. Instead, the developers have decided to add the new crafting station called the Cookery. The Cookery can be purchased right after you repair Burgle. So as soon as you repair them, you can purchase this. I believe it's either 100 or 500 raw science. It's pretty cheap. Maybe it's 1,000. I can't remember exactly what it was. It's pretty cheap. You should be able to buy it right away. And basically what this does is after you unlock it, you will also unlock the recipes for nachos and mite loaf, which are 2 tier 1 meals. And you can see here it only costs weed stem, clay, acid glands, and boiling glands. So basically if you kill yourself a couple of larvae or even maybe a red soldier ant, and then hopefully you can get lucky and get a boiling gland from your first or second bombardier beetle, you'll be able to make this thing. And there is a huge basically emphasis on food now, because we're going to talk about that in just a second. But real quick, what I also want to touch on this page as an example, or one thing that was actually changed, you're going to notice here is this looks like it's a new work or crafting bench. It's actually not. This is the glue masher. I believe the previous thing was called the glue factory. Essentially what this does is it allows you to make the repair glue. You're going to see here that it actually I believe it costs the same. Maybe it's cheaper. I can't even remember what the glue factory costs, but it has a new model here. This is unlocked you can actually purchase this from Burgle after you turn in the hedge chip. Although I will say I wouldn't advise doing that if you're starting over, because it doesn't really make sense to do that, because you're not going to get level 6 gear until much later on. So probably hold off on getting that. But just in case you load into your existing world and you say, what is this thing? This is actually the glue masher. It's going to replace the old, whatever it looked like. What was I believe it was called the glue factory, and it kind of looked like the smoothie station, the old smoothie station. So this is what it looks like now. So all the way down at the bottom here, we have 2 new foods. The first is going to be tadpole jerky. So previously when you would get the tadpole meat, you could just basically cook it and make tadpole roast. Now you can actually put it on the jerky rack and make yourself jerky. You're going to need this to craft the Tabpoloka pudding. And then you're also going to have water flea roast. Before you could only put the water flea meat and make water flea jerky. Now you need the water flea roast to make the spaghetti flea. Now this is kind of interesting. I didn't even think about this. Typically for most of the cooking recipes, you actually are going to be using only things that do not spoil. So it's interesting that they decided to do this. But one other thing I wanted to point out was, and while we're looking at the foods specifically, is there's been a huge change to foods. So prior to this update, basically the foods, you could put things, I'm not sure if I have a roasting spit. I'm in creative, so we can just throw one down here. Basically what you could do was you could just throw a bunch of roasting spits down, right? And just put the food on here and it would never spoil. And I was actually told by one of the developers that was kind of the intended purpose, but apparently they decided that either that wasn't the right, maybe they were confused, maybe they didn't have the right information, or maybe they talked to the wrong person, or maybe somebody just decided to change it. But right after this update, you basically, any food that you put on the roasting spit going forward is going to spoil. So if you have food that's currently on there, you can just leave it on there. It's never going to spoil. You can leave it on there as a relic of the times of the past, or you could just eat it up. But any roast you put on the roasting spit from now on going forward are going to spoil. I don't know exactly how long it takes from the spoil, but you got to be careful of that. So the reason I think they did that is they want to put more emphasis on the actually having the cookery. So what we can do is go down here, and I can actually place down the cookery since we're in creative, just to show you what it looks like. But I think the goal of this whole these changes is basically to make it so that you actually have to cook food and rely more on food, because honestly, the rest of you can't live off infinite roast anymore. You'll see here's the cookery. We can go in here and see all the different recipes. So as I said, when you unlock it, when you purchase this, you'll be able to get meatloaf and also the nachos. These are pretty easy to make, honestly, although I will say there's less acorn bits. So some of the things that have been changed are, it seems like the acorns are dropping far less acorn bits. I believe that's either part of the making us want to rely on forcing us to rely on meals more, although it also could be the fact that, I know for me, and as an example, in my main survival world, anytime I walk by the oak tree, there would just be probably 50 or 100 acorn bits laying on the ground, because I just stopped picking them up because I didn't really use them. So there's gonna be less acorn bits. If you eat the acorn bits, they're actually gonna fill you up even, I believe they fill you up less than they used to, or at least it seems like they did. So it's going to be, you can, I guess, live off of the mushrooms and acorn bits if you really want to, but it seems like the focus is now trying to push us more towards eating the meals, because the meals give you a buff over time. So, and then like I said, the other big change is going to be the change to the weapon and armor upgrades. So if we just go over here real quick and look, you're going to see that it costs style nuggets to upgrade your armor, and it's going to cost, if we don't have these maxed out, it's going to cost the tough nuggets. Now I'm in creative, so it's not showing you. The numbers are actually pretty cheap. They're much cheaper. The grind is much less than it was before. So to upgrade a single piece of armor, it's only going to cost you 15 style nuggets to get up to level 5. For a single weapon, it's going to take you 30 tough nuggets to get to level 5. Now, the one thing is, right now, these are the ones that you find in the world are finite. They do not respawn. So if you're used to running around and getting quartzite, you're used to running around and getting the leather plates, those are no longer going to exist. I do have a video on where most of the ones that spawn in the world are located. I'll leave a link for that down in the description below as well. There were some added after that. So basically, if you go to places where you would find quartzite in the past, you'll end up finding these things. But right now, there's a finite amount of them. So you're going to be kind of limited until 1.0 in how many things you can upgrade, especially to level 9, because there's only, I think, 27 of the tier 3 of each of the tier 3s. And honestly, if you're playing multiplayer, you might end up running into a situation where you can't really upgrade as much things as you want until you complete the Black Anthill Lab, because like I said, you got to complete the Black Anthill Lab to craft the tier 1 nuggets. Then you got to complete the Termite Hill and get the chip out of there to be able to craft the tier 2 nuggets. So right now, if you're starting fresh between now and 1.0, you're going to only be able to most likely get most of your gear up to level 7, and that's going to take quite a while, because I started fresh right now. I've gotten a lot of the ones, because I know where most of them are located, or I'm pretty sure I know where most of them are located, and I've only been able to upgrade, I think, one set of armor to level 5, and I upgraded I think I upgraded my crossbow to level 5, and I also upgraded a couple of other things up to like level 3 or 4 or something like that. So there's a limited number of those. It's finite, so you got to be careful with those until you actually unlock the crafting recipes. But then once you do that, then you'll kind of be able to, you'll be able to do whatever you want. So anyway, those are all the changes, everything you need to know about the Homestretch update. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you plan on using shared worlds? What was your favorite thing they added? Was there anything you wish they would have added? And let me know what you're looking most forward to in 1.0. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and consider subscribing for more videos just like this. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.